In Martello Tower number 3, I'm speaking of the one on the golf course, the one that's decrepit and graffiti covered, the one managed by a creative foundation. In Martello Tower number 3, there is a portal to hell. It is the last building in town, overlooking the ocean on one side and Folkestone on the other, and as such, it is the portal to hell. It is customary, it would be, the last house, the last staircase, the last door and window in town. This is where the devil comes through. He wants you to wonder why Folkestone, so let us wonder. Firstly, we would say he likes the water, the coming and going of the tides, a peaceful interlude from the constant screaming of his home, more so from all the paperwork. Souls come with a lot of it, demons come with even more, and the man upstairs likes to keep strict deadlines. Maybe he'd been prescribed a dose of iodine by some or other hell-bound doctor. Or maybe it's the fields, stretching up Canterbury Way, Ashford Way, the greenery, the ancient woods, the rolling hills of Kent, so often spoken of in songs. You'd ask, why not London? London would make more sense, more people, more everything. Why not go to London and turn the North Circular into more of a flaming hell than it already is? The answer, why not Folkestone? And so he comes to Folkestone. In 1802 or thereabout, once the tower is finished, the builders notice a shadow appear, a smell in the air like a curiosity, a dark kind, the type that killed the cat. The moment they lay down the last brick, they think nothing of it. Strange smells are not unusual in Folkestone. The shadow is a different matter. When it grows and becomes less a shadow and more a shape, and then there is a man standing where no man was before, there is a hint of hooves and of horns and an aura of red, but then there isn't. He looks like an accountant. It ain't ready yet, one of the men says, then mumbles angrily about pushing deadlines and cuts and how at this rate, with what they've been given in the way of resources and budgets, the tower will collapse when someone sneezes come 5 years. The devil smiles because he knows that it won't. The other men agree. There are 5 of them, each covered in various building substances and smelling mildly of lead in the paint. The sky breaks into a storm and the devil sighs comfortably, together with the thunder crashing through the field. It's a field now, the golf course won't come until much later. It happens sometimes. If it's been a while since he'd come up, it feels a bit like releasing pressure from joints, stiff knuckles, a bit of pain, a whole lot of relief. Butter it to hell, the same man says. The devil knows his name is John. Can't paint in this. Back it up, lads. I'm calling it a day. The others follow, since John is the foreman. They seem pleased enough to take the day off. The youngest one stops halfway through putting his brushes away and looks up at the devil and says, "You staying in town, mister? Can't be out in this weather." He offers to show the devil the way to an inn. The devil accepts. They walk through a field, first stopping off at the young man's house. It's just one room, and inside his wife and baby and a nondescript elderly relative. The baby cries in the wife's arm while she cooks, and the elderly relative watches the rain pouring down the window. The young man is soaked to the bone, so is the devil. And it's an unpleasant feeling, sticky and hot, but cold and claustrophobic. He remembers why he doesn't come to England much. The wife says they can't go back out in the downpour. The young man, whose name is Jack, says with the weather, the inn will run out of rooms. The wife convinces them to stay for tea. The devil doesn't speak. He observes and listens and wills the baby to stop crying. It does. "Annabella must like you," says the wife, handing him the baby as if he were not a stranger, but a friend. The devil is surprised. It's not often that humans hand him something. Usually trying to barter or rage or beat him at games of chess, just not to give him anything. He doesn't particularly like chess either. The air colours with his confusion. The baby is wriggly and heavy, as if all the weight of a person was condensed into a too small body, like a neutron star. He worries he will drop it, but it's an unfounded worry that comes from nowhere. He's never dropped anything before, in the millions and billions of years existing. It wouldn't do, being a clumsy devil. Annabella, who Jack calls Bella affectionately, watches his face as if she alone understood just who he is in all the universe. There's a galaxy inside her eyes. The devil wonders about the name. It's French, which is ironic considering what her dad's building. The tower also carries a French name, but misspelt. Martello. The English can be fascinating, their arrogant blindness, the devil thinks. He likes to generalise as much as the next man. The wife makes tea as Jack changes into dry clothes, as Annabella holds his thumb tightly, urgently, as if to convey a message. Nobody dies in England for a week after this. But this is before the internet or widespread newspapers, so no one notices. It's many years before the devil comes through the Martello Tower number 3 portal again. It's starting to ruin, but holds intact longer than John the foreman predicted. He hadn't lived to see it past the 5-year mark. This the devil knows for a fact. The tower had never once been used in combat. It's now 1849. The train station on the Folkestone harbour has just opened to the public. The devil walks towards it through the mud which clings to his boots. He's wearing modern clothes, more comfortable than the breeches from his last visit, and marvels at the top hat. It frames his features well, if he says so himself. A train pulls into the station. It's a passenger train. Ladies in dresses are waving white cloth napkins at the young lads settling themselves into carriages. The devil hopes no French are around to see this act of surrender, then remembers he's in the rare time when no such worries are necessary. No war going on right now, not here, anyway. There will be one soon again, and then again. He knows, but for now the ladies are free to wave their white flags around with no fear of being misinterpreted. A girl sells tea and cakes from a shabby table. It's too strong for his liking and leaves a black residue on the cups, which she has nowhere to wash after use, so instead they get precariously stacked in columns of 5, 6, 7 even, after the ladies in dresses and men in suits return. The devil pulls out a few coins from his pocket and hands them to him. There are always coins in his pocket, and always the exact amount he needs. It's a handy trick. The girl pours him tea from a pot covered in grey knitted cosy and asks if he'd like sugar with it. She hands it to him, a heavy stoneware mug filled to the brim. The devil notices her eyes have galaxies in them and wonders how long it's been. Too long. But he knows better than most. If you wait long enough, you can see the same features in different people. The guy upstairs has limited imagination and likes to use tricks such as genetics to make up for it. That's why all the fish look like fish. And everything around is more or less the same shape. Head, spine, arms, legs. Now, not that he'd notice it. There is a lot about the girl that reminds him of Jack and of his wife, and even of their useless elderly relative. But all of them must be long dead. The baby too, maybe. He isn't certain. You from around here? The girl asks, and now he knows her name is Martha. She asks because he doesn't look it, and because people who are rarely buy her tea. And why would they, when their owner is just a few minutes away? He tells her no, and she doesn't pry. Martha is a pretty girl, although harassed looking, and he wonders what Annabella looked like when she was grown. He could check, of course, but something about it doesn't sit right in his chest. Remembering her as a baby with a strong telling grip would suffice. Martha asks if the tea is fine because he hadn't drunk any of it yet, and so he drinks. It's strong enough to strip the enamel off his teeth, but of course his teeth don't work like that. He tells her it's fine, and she makes small talk about the weather while pouring a cup for someone behind him. The devil steps sideways to allow the annoyed man through. He'd not noticed that he was in the way, and it's a weird feeling of hidden, burning shame that has no place to exist. Even if the red-faced man wanted him to move, he could have asked. But the devil feels that somehow... The devil feels that somehow he missed some form of cue he should have followed in this intricate British queuing business. His own tea, the one that Martha poured for the man, and her teapot all get saturated through with repressed indignation. No one will enjoy it now. A few weeks later, some lesser-known headlines claim all tea in England have been contaminated because some people say it just doesn't taste right. This gets dismissed at large because although the claim is correct, nobody wants to be the one to say so. In the 1900s, at the beginning of the century, the devil comes again. He's not too sure what year it is exactly, only that the huge, monstrous building of a new hotel, aptly named the Grand, has just been finished. He's standing at the cliff edge, looking at the structure, blinded by the sunlight, and it's all so loud all around, from what seems to be hundreds of tourists. He considers turning back and never coming again. There's now a family living in Tower number 3, and he gave the mother a brief fright when he appeared. That in itself is not an issue. He assured her of his only intention, checking if the storm back the window wasn't damaged, and she believed immediately, but then he had to actually do it. Check out the window, then the brickwork, because she was concerned about something with that. and then something else. It was a hassle, and a town which is no longer quiet might not be worth the hassle. He walks to the building, up the stairs, through the door into the dining room, and from afar he knows already what he's about to see, because the girl at the window is looking right at him with eyes that hold galaxies, although she is blind. He tries not to know her name, but it's too late. She's singing, and he knows. Luna, for the moon. And Martha is dead, and so is Martha's daughter, and Martha is only young, but she looks at him as if she knows. He's being ridiculous and sentimental, but her voice is lovely, and before he knows it, he's at a table in a corner with a cup of tea and a slice of cake, and the tea is nothing like Martha's, and nothing like Annabelle's mother. And he knows that twice is coincidence, but 3 times is the work of the devil. But since he is the devil, then he doesn't know whose work this is. He does not speak to Luna, but he feels she sings to him. Although there are others in the cafe, she does not once take her unseeing eyes off him. She sings of things he shouldn't understand, like love and the sea and logging, and all of a sudden he understands them, and they keep him, and they seep out of him with such a strong wave. A lady at the nearest table starts weeping into her handkerchief, telling her husband, "I don't know why, nothing's wrong, it's just this song, I'll go and lie down." This is lucky for her, because it reminds her of feelings she'd long forgotten, and it brings colour back to her life and that of her husband's, and they go travelling together until they die, younger than they would have if they'd stayed, but happy. Luna sings another song, then another, and the devil drinks tea after tea from intricate porcelain cups, poured by delicate hands. Luna is bathed in golds and pinks of the sunset, and the devil understands now why there's so much glass at the front of the building. The light sets her pale hair on fire. Around him, patrons switch from tea to gin and whiskey, and he nods to the waiter for one too. Right now, as is the fashion, the devil has a thick moustache curled up at the ends, and a bead of whiskey forms on it. Luna sings a happier song, laughs at the chorus, and the devil is certain she's laughing at him. Instead of bringing the building or town or country to sea level, the devil laughs too, although quietly enough that no one else can hear him. Some years later, the man who built the Grand becomes the mayor, fulfilling his lifelong dream. The devil waits 100 years before he returns. He thinks about it long and hard. 100 years is 4 generations, and 4 generations is enough for whatever design has been made to pass. He looks for signs it passed. No more women with galaxies in their eyes born, and no more of them dying. But the sign doesn't come. He loses his patience. Curiosity wins. He appears in tower number 3 again. Nobody lives there anymore, and there are spiders in corners the size of his fist, and the smell of mildew. He has to break the door to get out. The harbour train station has closed, and reopened, and closed again. The devil made sure to miss all major happenings, but forgot that a new millennium was starting, or had started, and there was an end of the world prophecy nobody could agree on the date for. 2000 for some, 2001 for the rest. He comes in December 2000 on New Year's Eve to watch the fireworks. Folkestone's not what he remembers. The Marine Crescent has windows boarded up with grease blocks. The harbour arm, where Martha once sold her tea, is derelict and closed to the general public. He walks down the leas and looks into the great glass front of the Grand where Luna sang. There's a piano there now, but the pianist plays badly and the same song in a loop. Nobody stays from tea time into alcohol time. The devil rummages in his jean pocket and surely finds what he's looking for, a brick-shaped mobile phone with a black and green screen, which somehow manages to connect to the internet. There's an article on the BBC which takes 15 minutes to load, all about the Channel Tunnel and how it sucked all the life from Folkestone. The devil feels something he never felt before Luna had sung, but now it's diluted and tinged with regret. I found Folkestone so depressing I had to move to Canada, says a comment in the article. The devil is angry at the sentiment, but then again, how can he be, when he's not been there for 100 years? Had he too not run away? There's a tent on the leas, far from where the public would go, where fireworks were being prepped. The devil walks into it, having found nowhere else to go, and considering it started to drizzle. He's wearing a tweed jacket he's rather fond of and wouldn't want it damaged by rain. Inside, a woman in her 30s with an impressive dragon tattoo barely covered by a tank top and a sleeping 5-year-old girl. He knows immediately he'd not derailed the plan, whatever the plan was, only delayed it. My God, are you from the council? I sent you lot the paperwork already. Bugger off, I've no time for this now. The woman's name is Frankie, and Frankie is angry. The devil thinks that if he were an inspector, he'd probably not look too fondly on a child sleeping next to a mountain of colourful explosives. But he doesn't say that because, although he is the devil, Frankie looks vaguely threatening, and he doesn't much like confrontation. "I'm here to help you set up," he says instead, and she looks at his tweed jacket and slim hands doubtfully. It's not his fault that he looks like an accountant, or inspector, or a professor of something like English literature or comparative art history. Frankie hands him boxes of something he needs to be very careful with, and he slowly walks them to a spot outside marked with a chalk X. She unpacks them, labels them, and numbers them. The child doesn't stir. Frankie doesn't get friendlier as the evening passes into night, but she does offer him tea from her flask, and it tastes so much like Martha's that he wants to cry. And then he wonders where that came from, that raw pain, but Frankie keeps her galaxy-brimming eyes on him as if he were an imbecile, and so he tries to keep it together. The child cries out in her sleep, and he tries harder because he knows it's his fault. He wonders if she were to wake up, would those same eyes be in her face too? Frankie mumbles about the decline of the town and how much the council has fucked it, about the council flats and the council rooms and the Grand Bursting, which is the ugliest building she's ever seen. And seriously, did none of those people have eyes? The devil remembers when it was still the Royal Pavilion, but he doesn't tell her that, or about the time when Dickens came to stay. Instead, he listens as she becomes more and more vocal about the million little issues. It's been a long time since she had someone to listen. And it smells like sewage at the harbour after the rain, she says. All the shops are shutting down, she says. Nobody has any money. The GP waiting list is 4 weeks long, 3 if you're lucky. It's no wonder people think the world is ending, the devil thinks, but he doesn't say that either. People are congregating en masse on the Lees grass and pavement around the bandstand. An ocean of them to where the Ark of the War Memorial proudly stands, and dozens of knitted poppies are clipped to the fence, each one a memory. Frankie doesn't wake her daughter when the fireworks start, nor does she put on a coat. She's flushed with the cold, or maybe with exertion, or maybe with both. The devil watches as colours explode in the sky, the same in France, across the water and just as visible. 4 years later, Saga is sold, and the Dahan Charitable Trust flourishes. The world doesn't end. In 2019 October, just before Halloween, the devil comes through the Martello Tower number 3 portal to hell, and his heart sinks. The spiders are still there, and someone has been squatting inside. It's a good place to squat, as the walls are 2.5 metres thick and there's no way for the others to get in. But he wonders what this means for the rest of the town. And then he is at the harbour arm and it's Saturday, and there are bars with food and people everywhere. And although they complain about what they call London prices, they're still there, buying pints of beer and mussels and something called Iggy's Pop. Something loud and animated plays on an outdoor screen, and the devil walks up to the lighthouse and gets a glass of red. They don't want his coins, but luckily the tweed jacket he is still wearing produces a bank card which only needs to touch the reader to settle the transaction. He marvels at this. And his phone, which comes after the card, is larger than the last one, but flat and cold to the touch, with a screen with real colours, and the BBC loads so fast you can't count the seconds. The rest of the country seems to be in disarray, but here life has elevated. There's still a way to go, but Folkestone no longer feels abandoned. Brexit's in progress, but now the devil understands that no matter what the year, something important will always be happening. He sits on a spindly cast-iron chair and looks to the water, smooth as a mirror. The tide is high, covering the small arches lining sunny sands, and people are swimming despite the cold. Back and forth, the small dot of a man moves across the water. He must be training for something, the devil thinks. Surely nobody would do this to themselves otherwise. The tower stands in the middle of a golf course, a huge golden cornucopia between it and the sea. There's an orange cardboard-looking house floating inside the harbour, and the devil feels perplexed by it, in a way that makes his wine taste sweeter, because that sort of silly, strange, curious thing means life must be good. The chair next to him is pulled away from the fence surrounding the harbour wall. A young woman sits on it, but doesn't say, "Is this seat taken?" as he'd expect her to, because she knows it isn't. Her eyes have the sun in them, and the devil knows that whatever had been in motion for the past 200 years is now coming to be. You were there when that tower was built. Not a question. He answers yes anyway. And at the train station? Not a question either. She drinks a glass of something bubbly and faintly golden, looks surprised. The devil notices that so does everyone else, and tempers his curiosity unsuccessfully. "Don't," she says, "it tastes better this way." The devil realises he doesn't know her name, and it's the first time he remembers ever not knowing something. He's torn between asking for it and not asking, because although not knowing something is suffocating